Let's see. Assalamu alaikum, family. I'm Zechariah Israel, again here to discuss how to read the solar calendar. I'd like to point out a scripture, Matthew chapter 24, verse 30. Which is a testimony of the Son of Man, Yahweh ben Yahweh. Matthew chapter 24, verse 30. Which says, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." Now, no, I don't want to see me. But right there. The sign of the Son of Man is referring to the same sign that is spoken of in Exodus chapter 31, verses 13, and Exodus 31, 17. In Exodus chapter 31, verse 13, lets us know clearly what the sign is. Exodus 31, 13, "Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord Yahweh that does sanctify you." Here you see that Moses was being commanded to speak unto the children of Israel. He wasn't being commanded to speak to the world. The Sabbaths were given to us, the children of Israel. It wasn't given to the whole world. Shalom Aleichem, family. Blessings. And again, Exodus 31, 17 tells you again, "It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord Yahweh made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed." So this sign that's being referred to in Matthew chapter 24, verse 30 is referring to that same sign. The problem that we're having is that we cannot keep the law if we don't know how to read a solar calendar. If you think you're keeping the law using a Roman calendar, that's the whole trick right there. You think you're keeping the law while breaking it all the time. Saturday is the seventh day this year, this solar year 6022. Saturday. The Sabbath is sundown Friday to sundown Saturday on the Roman calendar, but we're keeping the seventh day. And the seventh day is based on counting from the first day. The first day is always when we have 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night in Israel. That is the equinox that we follow. Any calendar that shows a Bib 1 starting on March the 19th or March the 20th or March the 21st, that calendar is in error. It's wrong. It is not following the teachings of the Honorable Yahweh ben Yahweh. A Bib 1 is always when there's 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night in Israel. And that can be proven by going to, or when the 12 hours a day and 12 hours a night can be proven by going to a site that is most easiest to read is called timeanddate.com. And our days are measured from sunset to sunset. The evening and the morning is a day. And Genesis 1 and 5 lets us know clearly that we are to start from the beginning, like this Bible tells us. Genesis 1 and 4 says that, and Yahweh saw the light that it was good, and Yahweh divided the light from the darkness. Now, the equinox itself, by definition, is light and darkness being divided. It's divided equally. 12 hours a day, 12 hours a night. When that event occurs in Israel, that is always a Bib 1. That's where the Roman 28-year cycle comes into play, because it can't be the same day every year on a Roman calendar, because every 4 years the Romans add what they call a leap day. That's why if you've been following our solar calendar, you'll see that a Bib 1 starts at, when the Roman calendar lines up with the solar calendar, that is known as the closing of the 28-year cycle. Say Jones, the answer to your question. I see, and I appreciate your question. So thank you for asking. And I'll stop right in the middle and answer your question. What happened when you keep all 7 days as your Sabbath? If you're keeping them all at once, you're going to be right one time out of the 7. If you're keeping all 7 every day as your Sabbath and you're resting every day, you're going to be poor and broke and weak because you're not doing any work. And, a poor man, you can't get rich. See, and Yahweh said that we are to be rich. That's one of the commandments. We're not supposed to be poor. But all 7 days are our Sabbath. Every day gets its turn. And the easiest way to understand that is that if you keep any numbered day every year, it's going to be a different named day every year. For example, if your birthday is on the 7th day on the calendar of any month, if you keep the 7th, if this year it's a Monday, next year it'll be a Tuesday. The next year it'll be a Wednesday. And that's true for any numbered day on this Roman calendar. And that's simply math, because it's 365 days in the year. And it's 365 is divisible by what, 7? 52 times with the remainder of 1. 364, days with a remainder of 1. So I hope that answers your question, Say Jones. Chanman's Electronics. I'm going to type in here how to get the solar calendar. You can get your copy of the solar calendar by sending an address to mail it to bosch7@gmail.com. Maybe I should write it. To get free copy. Solar calendar as taught by the Honorable Yahweh ben Yahweh. Email your address to bosch7@gmail.com. All right. Now, there you go. You're quite welcome, say Jones. So every 28 years, the Roman calendar corrects itself. And the Roman calendar has to correct itself because it does not count from zero. Roman numerals don't have a zero. So it's impossible for the Roman calendar to be correct or to count time correctly because it goes from one. It starts from one. That's like saying that time starts with 1 day old. And we know that's incorrect. The Roman calendar goes from December 31st to January 1st. And it starts in the dead of winter when everything's dying. So we know that's not the beginning of the year. That's just a trick. The whole reason why the Romans changed the calendar was because they realized that they could not defeat Israel as long as we were keeping the law as Yahweh commanded us. And that remains true even today. If we return to Yahweh and keep his law the way that he taught us to keep his law, then we'll be blessed again and he'll raise us up on high. That's what is meant in Matthew chapter 24, verse 30, which says, all the tribes of the earth shall mourn. You study the word mourn and it'll lead you to the word hinder. Hinder means to get in the way of, to stop, to try to keep us from being and to cut us off from the knowledge. And that's what's happening. They do not want us to learn the solar calendar. That's why you see so much confusion around what time it is and how to reckon the year. Understand this. The solar calendar is a perfect computation. It correctly measures the amount of time it takes the earth to rotate around the sun, from a fixed point in the heavens back to that same fixed point called the equinox. And it starts from zero. The evening and the morning constitutes a day. And when you count the time that way, you can't count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In that sense, you have evening and the morning, 1. Evening in the morning, and that's 2. So the evening of the 365th day and the morning of the first day, you have to mentally divide every day in half, evening and the morning. And the best way to explain it is if you already have your solar calendar, look at it and see that the evening of the 364th day and the morning of the 365th day, that's the end of the year. And if you look at the bottom there, we have 0 in that slot because the evening of the 365th day and the morning of the first day is day 1. It starts at the bottom. It starts counting from the end of the year. So we're going to continue to put this out here and hopefully I get more questions. And it doesn't matter if it's the same question. We're going to continue to put it out there until our family understand and return to our Father, Yahweh, through his son, Yahweh ben Yahweh. Shalom Alaikum, Sister Monica. I have to have a phone number included when we send calendars to Canada. Will solar year 6025 start back over 0 with a bid 1 starting March 10th? Yes, sir. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I need to be excused for a minute. Is there a way to pause this? I'm going to have to step away for a minute. I got a little family emergency right here. Hey, yeah, you okay? Is BJ with y'all? Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure he was okay. All right, I'm live. I'm live on. All right, I'm live online right now. Okay, all right. I'll see you in a little bit. All right. Apologies, family. Apologies for that, family. I had to step away. I have to tell you, I'm a real person with real family and real responsibilities that I have to take care of. Back to man I. Will year 6025 start back over zero with a bid one starting March 10th? That's a good question, and it shows that you understand. Yes, sir. Can they see that, Yami? Am I showing the 28-year cycle is what I'm trying to point at. What about now? Anyway, all right. What I'm trying to show is I have blown up the 28-year cycle. We hope to get better graphics here, visual aids. But the question he's asking is that at the end of the 28-year cycle, this 28-year cycle will end at 6024. The next 28-year cycle, he's asking, will it be 6025? And all right, now 28 will be the beginning of the next 28-year cycle, but that line 28, 2020, 6024, that will be zero. All right. When you get your solar calendar, you'll have on the back of it the 28-year cycle. And man, I appreciate the respect and the love, but and my beard is white. My beard is white, but I'm your brother. I don't have any other titles to my name. I'm another Hebrew student that I study the teachings of Yahweh ben Yahweh, and I believe on what he teaches, and I practice it. So I see you refer to me as Elder Zach, and I'm brother. I'm brother Zechariah. Student, just like everybody else. All right, praise Yahweh ben Yahweh. Yes, sir. So again, your question, 6025 will not be zero. 6025 will be one. Zero will be in 2020, 6024. See, our calendar counts true time. So 2020 is also in the zero place. When it starts the next cycle, we've already counted it as 28, but that's also the starting point for the next. It's also the starting point for the next 28-year cycle. Sheila, is that Sheila Israel? I'm going to have to answer your question by giving you some information. Now, the feasts that are held in Texas are being given by Peace. The Peace Foundation is not following the calendar as taught by Yahweh ben Yahweh. So therefore, anybody that's keeping the calendar that Peace is sharing with a Bib 1 starting on their March the 19th or their March the 20th or March the 21st, you're still breaking the law. And I'm not a lawbreaker, sister. I do not want my people to be under the curse, and that's why I'm sharing the teachings of Yahweh ben Yahweh with our family. Peace has refused to share what Yahweh ben Yahweh taught concerning the solar calendar. So that's the answer to your question. They hold a feast in Texas. But it's being held at the wrong time. So I've put your answer in writing. A feast is held by Peace Foundation in Texas at the wrong time, which means keeping it at the wrong time keeps us under the curse. So that's the answer to your question. And it's your choice whether you want to go there or not, or whether you want to follow Yahweh ben Yahweh. Yeah, I mean, help me find the scripture. I'm gonna answer your question. The temple, that we are the temple. What is it? First Corinthians, yeah, that's it. First Corinthians 3 and 16, 1-6. Thanks, brother. Manny. If you look at, maybe I should type these answers in, brother. 28. The year 28 lines up with 0. Look at your 28-year cycle and see that year 0, 1992, which is 5996. That was also 26. That was also year 28 That was the closing of the 7. That was also year 28 from the previous 28-year cycle. At your all right, year 28 would also be year 0. They look at your 28-year cycle chart and see that year 0 also lined up with the year 28 from the previous 28-year cycle. Did that answer your question? Adina. Yes, Adina 1. The year 28 lines up with 0. Yes, that is correct. No, man, I know that's incorrect. In this year, actually, it's going to be sundown Sunday to sundown Monday. Abib 1 will be sundown Sunday to sundown Monday in the solar year 6024, which is also year 0. Is that a question, Adina 1? Yes, the 28-year cycle is based on the fact that the Roman calendar, every 28 years, it realigns itself up with true time. The Roman calendar knows that it's wrong, and it adds a day every 4 years called an leap day or leap year. Well, that ends up with 7 days too many on their calendar in a 28-year cycle. So what they have to do in order to line back up with true time is they throw those 7 days away that they've added to the calendar like they never existed. And they realign itself with the solar calendar. And if they didn't, they wouldn't know what time it is. No, the Sabbath day will only fall on Friday every 7 years. The Sabbath day is not going to be Friday. So that's incorrect, man. Or man 1. I don't know. No, the Sabbath day will only fall on Friday every 7 years. Every day gets its turn. We don't worship a day. We worship the 7th day. We do not worship a named day. Every day gets its turn. Every day, named day gets its turn. We keep the 7th day. So if you're following a named day, it's wrong. We keep the 7th day. You always say keep the 7th day holy. So the Sabbath was on Friday in year 25, in 2017, last year, which was the solar year 6021. Our Shabbat was sundown Thursday to sundown Friday. This year, which is the 26th year in the 28-year cycle, Roman year 2018, solar year 6022, our Sabbath is sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. Next year, 6023, it will be sundown Saturday to sundown Sunday. The next year, 6024, it will be sundown Sunday to sundown Monday. We keep the 7th day. Every day gets its turn. So 6024 will also be year 0. The next 28-year cycle will start counting from year 0. It will line up. 0 will be 2020, 60, 24. We will begin with this 28-year cycle ends. And how you getting Friday on that, I don't understand. So I hope Adina won. Yes, every 7 years, every day gets its turn. It follows a perfect rotation of 7. Man, I'm asking you a question. I think because I'm live, you can hear me. How you making the Sabbath days fall on Fridays? How did you come to that understanding? If there's something that I said that confused anybody, I'd like for you to point it out so that I can correct myself. Did you hear me say something, Yummy? This year, you start a Bib 1 on March 11th, which begins at sundown March 10th to sundown March 11th. And a Bib 1, again, is based on when there's 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night in Israel. That's what we follow. We follow the equinox for Israel. That is the beginning, because that's when Yahweh divided the light from the darkness. So if you were following it by naming the Roman calendar, then you may get confused. But understand that a Bib 1, our beginning of the year, is always on the equinox for Israel, based on from the evening and the morning, from sunset to sunset. That's our Abib 1. Abib 1 will never be on March the 19th. Abib 1 will never be on March the 20th. Abib 1 will never be on March 21st. Abib 1 would be March 17th, which begins on their March 16th at sundown. It would be that every year, if not for the Roman leap year system. Every 28 years, the Roman calendar put their Abib 1 or our Abib 1 on their calendar. They line up with our equinox on what is March 17th on their calendar. So if you follow it that way, you can't go wrong. Because this 4-year cycle, where they started Abib 1 on March 11th, actually started in the 24th year. The Abib 1 has been March the 11th since 6020. That's why our calendar is good for 4 years, because it's good for 6020, it's good for 6021, it's good for 6022. And Abib 1 will start again on March the 11th. But because they're going to have our 6023 is going to cover their February. See, our calendar overlaps their calendar. So their February and their 2020, they're going to add a day. So although Abib 1 is going to start on March the 11th, which begins at sundown of their March the 10th, because their calendar is going to have 29 days in it, their February. So we can't use that same calendar, because we have to show that their calendar is going to have 29 days in it that year. And that's what makes Abib 1 move by 1 day on the Roman calendar. Every time they add a February 29, our calendar shows that trick that they did. Our calendar show on, it's still going to be on our equinox for Israel. We're not going to follow their calendar. We're going to follow our solar calendar. That's what we have to understand, that Abib 1 is based upon the equinox for Israel. It's not based on the Roman calendar. See? So you're talking about starting Abib 1 March 11th, a day later than March 10. No, we're starting Abib 1 when there's equinox in Israel. It just so happens that it lines up with their March the 11th. So the idea is to get that Roman calendar out of your head. We want to leave America with the confusion. We want to get that confusion out of our head and be renewed in the spirit of our mind. You know, it's like we've been born again. Say, Jonas, I almost didn't see your question here. Why is it that we are with conflict like this? Our teaching is as one. Again, I'm going to refer you to Matthew 24, verse 30, and that answers your question. If you study that word mourn, it's no coincidence. That's intentional. That's why we're having these live videos, because we want our family to understand that we're under attack. They don't want you to learn. They don't want us to learn how to keep this solar calendar, because when we keep the law, Yahweh bless us. That's how we get our blessings, is by keeping the law. See, all the tribes of the earth are mourning. That's why there's conflict. They're trying to keep us divided. They're trying to keep us under the curse. This class here that we're sharing is designed to help us understand what Yahweh ben Yahweh brought us. This class is designed to show that Exodus 31:13 and Exodus 31:17 is still in effect. We have to keep the law. So, and they know that we have to keep the law, and that's how we get blessings. So that's why they're starting all this confusion around the seventh day. See, study Matthew chapter 24, verse 30, where it says, all the tribes of the earth shall mourn. Study that word mourn. And that conflict that you're seeing is caused by the tribes of the earth mourning. They're causing that confusion. They're trying to cut us off from our Father. That's what this is about. This isn't no accident. This is intentional. That's why it's so important that every one of us that is interested, go back, study this solar calendar, learn how to keep the law. Learn how to keep the feast in the time appointed, the way Yahweh gave it to us. And that will bring us up. Keeping the law will cause Yahweh to bless your minds to understand really what's going on here. Keeping the law will give us all the blessings promised to us in Deuteronomy chapter 28. Read Deuteronomy chapter 28 and understand all the blessings that will come to us when we keep the law. That's why they changed the calendar. That's why Daniel 7:25 is in effect. They changed the calendar to keep us from keeping the law. And this most dynamic law is the seventh day, which is based upon us understanding the solar calendar. So say, Jonas, study this solar calendar, make sure you understand it, and then share it with another brother, and you will help end this conflict. The conflict is by design. That's how they're fighting us. They're fighting us by keeping us away from the understanding of the solar calendar. We don't need a gun for this. All we need to do is just obey the teachings of the Honorable Yahweh ben Yahweh. So, keep the law. And the only way we can keep the law is to understand the solar calendar. You cannot keep the law. I'm going to say this again because another sister, I think her name was Shalea or Sheila. We cannot keep the law at the wrong time. If it's the seventh day, it's falling on the Roman calendar, sundown Saturday to sundown Monday next year. And these Hebrews that don't understand that rotation of the solar calendar, how it's going to rotate on the same day, they're going to be breaking the law and they're going to be under the curse. See, we have to understand the solar calendar and keep it correctly. That's how we get blessings, because every calendar out there with a bib one wrong, they have all their feast dates on the wrong day. They're keeping the wrong day as the seventh day. $60.25 will be sunset Monday to sunset Tuesday. Yep, you got it, brother man, if that's what you're saying. And the next year 6025, our Sabbath will be sundown Monday to sundown Tuesday. And Sister Monica, yes, if you send an address to mail to, we will send you another calendar. It's very important that we understand. Very important that we understand. Very important that we understand how to keep the seventh day correctly. It's very important that we keep the feast in the time appointed. Today's date is on the solar calendar. It's the evening or the morning. It's there July the 7th. I was thinking about how I should tell you. You said tell me today's date, and it's the 29th day on the solar calendar. But it also lines up with their July 7th. But now we are in the evening of the 29th day. We're in the evening. So you have to visually divide that 29 into half, although it's painted green on our calendar. So John Anthony Crispin, hopefully that answered your question. We're in the evening of the 29th day. Excuse me, we're in the morning of the 29th day. It's the evening of the 28th and the morning of the 29th. That was the Sabbath. The Sabbath is ended, and so now we're in the evening of the 29th day. Sister Shalia, Israel, an answer to your question is you keep your tithes until you're not confused anymore. Peas is keeping us under a curse. But until you understand what you're doing, I say you keep them. Keep your tithes and hold on to them and keep studying Yahweh ben Yahweh's teachings until you understand what you're doing. Because I don't want you under a curse either. But my focus is on the solar calendar. Say Jones, as we are to keep this order of time, all can be informed 1 hour. I don't understand your question. The order of time, if you're referring to the solar calendar, this solar calendar is the same order that Adam kept. This is the same order that Moses kept. This is the same order that Abraham kept. This is the same order that Jacob kept. We're keeping the solar calendar. This is from the beginning. We're keeping the calendar based upon Genesis chapter 1. That's what this calendar is based upon. If you study this calendar and you study the feast, and all of our feasts began with the Sabbath and end with the Sabbath, you study this calendar and you study the Bible, you will see that this calendar lines up perfectly with what's in the Holy Bible. Yes, sir. We studied and learned it, and then we can share with each other. That's exactly what's going on here. We're studying and learning this calendar, and then we're sharing it with our family. Yahweh ben Yahweh taught us, seek to understand the very nature of a thing. Learn all you can about that thing, and then use what you learn to better yourself and your nation as a whole. And I refer to them as body watchers because they all put up his picture. But when you ask them to share some of what he taught, all they can say is praise Yahweh. Some of them won't even say the name Yahweh ben Yahweh, and we're supposed to glorify his name. So we glorify the teachings of the Honorable Yahweh ben Yahweh by bringing you the salvation that only he could bring. This solar calendar is what the sign of the Son of Man is. Yahweh ben Yahweh is the only one that could teach us this. Nobody else could do this. This is proof that Yahweh ben Yahweh is the Messiah. But we have to understand it. Our disobedience is what's causing us to stay under the curse. John Anthony Crispin, no, the year is not 6021. Anybody telling you that the year is 6021 and you believe in it is because you haven't studied the teachings of the Honorable Yahweh ben Yahweh. Solar time is counted in the moment. We are in the year 6022. We have completed 6,021 years. And whoever's doing that, 6021, they're also starting a bib one on March the 19th or March the 20th or March the 21st. They are following Roman teachings and not following the teachings of the Honorable Yahweh ben Yahweh. They're basing their studies on what they consider to be a fact of nature, that the equinox is when the sun is shining on half of the planet. They say that's a fact of nature. It may be. I doubt it because the earth is round and it can't shine on it perfectly, all of it, half of it at one time. The sun is round and the earth is round. So that's not true. That's another trick. But again, our Abib 1 is based upon the 28-year cycle as taught by Yahweh ben Yahweh, and is based upon Genesis chapter 1, which is the word, which is Yahweh ben Yahweh. So again, I offer you the solar calendar, and we'll send it to you, which will prove to you what the year is. You won't have to ask that question. You'll be able to listen to the class tapes as taught by the Honorable Yahweh ben Yahweh, and you'll be able to see for yourself what the year is. The year is not solar year 6021. No, sir. Last year was solar year 6021. It's over with. It's finished. Somebody is just doing math in their head and not understanding zero. And that's why they're coming up with 6021. Study it for yourself, brother. What does shalom mean? Does that mean, is he saying that in the form of goodbye? Or he doesn't want any answers? Or there's the answer. I typed it up. Is the year 6021? No, the correct solar year is 6022 and can be proven with the correct understanding of the 28-year cycle as taught by the Honorable Yahweh ben Yahweh. Can you prove that the year is 6021? Yahweh taught us to prove all things. John Anthony Crispin, if you want to know, then we'll help you understand. But if it's goodbye, then God be with you. They do all of those things. All of it's part of the trick. You know, I even go as far to say this brother here, John Anthony Crispin, he asked a question, and because I disagreed with him and told him that I could prove it to him, he doesn't want to know. He wants to leave because he doesn't understand. So I say, well, that's not the mindset of Yahweh ben Yahweh. Yahweh ben Yahweh taught us to seek to understand. So if you want to leave, then goodbye, brother. But if you want to learn, we'll send you a calendar and we'll send you the class tape so that you can learn it for yourself. And then you can prove what year it is. But if you want to just be a parrot and repeat something that somebody told you, then that's not what we're here for. We're appealing to brothers and sisters that want to study. We want to, yeah. Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate you for wanting to know. Because I was getting ready to talk about that mindset that don't want to know. I mean, not to know is bad. Not to want to know is worse. Just say, Jonas, the truth is right all the time. See, and that's what we're dealing with. And again, we will send you the 28-year cycle. We will send you the class tapes with Yahweh ben Yahweh teaching it. And you already have, hopefully, a King James version of the Bible. Study it. It tells you how to start from the beginning in Genesis chapter 1. It tells you in the beginning, the earth was without form and void. Void is synonymous with zero. It starts from nothing. Our calendar reflects that. It starts from zero. That's why the end of the year is 365 days. The evening of the 364th day and the morning of the 365th day, that's the end of the year. But when you visually divide every day in half, you will understand that at 365th day, the evening of the day is still there. That's the beginning of the next year, starting from zero at the bottom. Our calendar reflects that. So it's been, I guess, long enough. We're going to end this class. I appreciate you for coming. Hopefully, you'll spread the message. Let your friends and family know. Let your... All right, go ahead. All right. All right. All right. I got disrupted in my train of thought there. Let your friends and family know that we're willing to share the solar calendar with them. Somebody's asking me, so the 7th month began on 11th of September. The 7th month began with a big 1. Excuse me. The 7th month. See, Brad Streeter, thank you for that. One of the synonyms of the word sign is remnant. And then he quotes Romans 9:27. Isaiah also cried concerning Israel, though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, a remnant shall be saved. The 7th month begins on the Roman calendar September 7th. That is correct, which actually begins on the evening of the Roman September the 6th. So that is correct. Wait a minute. See, you got me thinking about this thing. Does the 7th month begin on the 11th of September? No, it does not. The 7th month begins on the 7th of their September. So no, the answer to your question is no. Zachary, Israel. The 7th month does not begin on yeah, 7th month begins on Roman calendar September 7th. So I'm gonna hang up here. I'm gonna end this because yeah. Okay. All right. Why is the 5 Sabbath day on the 7th month? I don't even know what he's talking about.